It appears from interview that is an unclear understanding about members of the CPT that are not being allowed to meet Mr. Öcalan during their last visit in 222, because he would not accept to see them. It is quite hard to imagine that those claims are real. The CPT is a serious international recognized organization that could not possibly let anyone impede his mission so easily. If, on the contrary, those claims are true, we are confident that the CPT would at least have requested an oral confirmation from Mr. Öcalan himself or through his lawyer. Or probably the CPT would certainly have organized another visit in the following week. Without this minimal critical capacity, CPT would not be able to play his role because a possible lie would prevent them from doing it. But in a press release on this subject, CPT said they were able to fulfill its mission. So confirmed they are in touch with Mr. Öcalan, and in this way, on the exception of the representative of the Turkish state, they are the only one who have been in contact with them in the last 2 years. They, so, have this simple and crucial information to have at least a certain proof that he and other Imrali prisoners are still alive and in good health. To prevent the family to have this information is a useless cruelty that have nothing to do with law, crime and punishment, and it is itself a violation of the basic rights of the relatives. In this regard, it is not understandable and even damaging that the CPT does not produce this information faster in their report, which is still confidentially and not published for the opposition of the Turkish state. The second issue that Paul will introduce to you is the role of the lawyer and the right to defense.
I am a lawyer, but I'm also an activist. And I believe that as lawyers, we have a special role to ensure that all peoples around the world are subject to the rule of law and political freedom. Now, obviously, I was sympathetic to the Kurdish cause before I came here, but over the last few days, I couldn't help but be moved by the stories that I've heard. So now I really strongly believe in freedom for all political prisoners, freedom for Abdullah Öcalan, and freedom for the Kurdish people. But there's always a but with a lawyer. But for me, a key question is, what is the most effective way for us as lawyers to utilize our influence in service of those principles? And I'm very worried that some people in the Kurdish community have overestimated my influence in the English system and in politics. Because I know that if I write a letter saying free Abdullah Öcalan, it will get ignored. Nobody will care. Something really struck me from what one of our delegations said. He said, we may speak, but what happens if nobody listens? So I believe we need to strongly think about what our greatest places of influence are. And for me, what I feel most strongly is using the issues of lawyers and the way that the Turkish state is impinging upon the right of lawyers to do their job is a very strong way of getting the issue in. And once we've got people's attention with that point, then we can raise the issue of isolation. Then we can raise the issues of prisons, of Mr. Öcalan, and all the other things. But I believe that the role of lawyers is a very important way into that. And so some of the things we've heard were very shocking. And actually, I think one of the things that first made me stand up and sort of think, wow, was when I heard the story of the lady, I've forgotten her name in the front row, who was arrested and jailed just for being Mr. Öcalan's lawyer. And that, as an English lawyer, made me wake up. And I think it will make other English lawyers wake up too and pay attention. So that was one thing. The jail, and at one point we heard, and I would love confirmation of this, that every lawyer that's visited Mr. Öcalan has been arrested and jailed. It would be good to know if that's definitely true, because it's a shocking fact if it is. Also, we heard from other lawyers about the use of charging aspiring lawyers and practicing lawyers with crimes so that their bar license is removed and they can't practice. And that's something we'd like to know more detail about. And also we met with the Turkish Bar Association and found out there's a committee for lawyers' rights, which these things can be referred to. And there are a number of issues, for instance, around searches for lawyers going into jails, of not being able to talk to your client in confidentiality, and of your notes not being confidential. Something that, just to finish off, something that we really wanted, and we've slightly got, but not as much as we'd like, is real-life case studies and stories. Statistics tell a story, yes, and they're important, and they must form part of our reports. But also, I fundamentally believe that lawyers are storytellers. We tell a story and we try and move people towards our cause. And a key way to do that is to tell stories about people that others can relate to. So what I'd really love, I think I heard in the people before about the story of a lawyer who was taken out by the police. I'd really like as many of our reports as possible to have real-life case studies of real-life people who have suffered at the hands of the Turkish state that we can relate to gain sympathy. And we have asked for some of those case studies and we haven't received them all yet, but we're hoping to get them. And I really urge everyone in your different reports to include those, because I know if I go back to my country and say, this is what they're doing to lawyers, here's some statistics about that, and here are some real-life case studies, that they'll listen in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. So that's what I'm urging us all to do. Thank you.
And take the stage again for our conclusion. We think that with a judiciary body that is not independent, lawyers prosecuted and frightened when doing their job, and evidence of violation of basic human rights of the prisoners, there is an urgent need of making very critical voice heard from international community toward the Turkish judiciary system, especially concerning the issue we stressed about human rights violation in İmralı prison. Pressure should be put on the Turkish state to restore the rule of law by immediately end the isolation of Öcalan and as the other detainee of İmralı. Implement the recommendation of the CPT as well as those arising from the various rulings of the European Court of Human Rights. Pressure should also be extended of international human rights bodies, in particular those of the Council of Europe, to release to the public the report of the visit carried out in 2022, which is still confidential because the opposition of the Turkish state to publication. We aim at pressuring at the Bar Association of individual European states to engage in their respective national and international fora, including European Court of Human Rights, to expose the illegitimacy and the constant violation of the principle of international human rights law that applies as well in Turkey regarding the aggravated solitary confinement in Turkish prison, and in particular in İmralı prison.
There's a problem. There's a problem.
Sorry.
We are waiting.
Okay. Repeat. The last. Do you want? I repeat the last?
We are waiting. Rengi. Kapandı bir bekleyin. Çelik kesildi. Just a second.
Sì.
Yeah, we are waiting.
Translator, you spoke so fast.
Can you try?
He's given up.
We can start.
Okay. Have I to repeat the last sentence?
Yes.
Please, okay.
Yes, last few sentences.
Slower. We aim at pressuring the Bar Association of individual European states to engage in their respective national and international fora, including European Court of Human Rights, to expose the...
There's a problem.
Ah, okay.
It's about interpreter.
Ah, okay.
No, not about you.
Okay.
Sorry. And speak loud. Maybe loud,
Loud?
and slowly.
Loud and slowly, ok. Sassa, prova, prova, mi sentite? Sassa, prova, microfono, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, Sassa. Oh, can you listen? Can you hear? Can you hear? Okay. I have to stay closer. Okay. It's okay? Okay. We aim at pressuring the Bar Association of the individual European state to engage in their respective national and international fora, including the European Court of Human Rights, to expose the illegitimacy and the constant violation of the principle of international human rights law that applies as well in Turkey regarding the aggravated solitary confinement in Turkish prison and in particular in Imrali prison. Lobbying the human rights association, political parties, and all democratic people to strongly raise the issues about the right to defense and call for the respect of the United Nations principle right to defense that apply to both lawyers and prisoners. The ban on the visit by lawyers in Imrali prison is a clear violation of the UN minimum standard, not only for the treatment of prisoners, not to mention the clear CPT's recommendation as well as Turkey national law. All democratic states, being based on the rule of law, are committed to guarantee the rights of all prisoners, regardless of their identity and the length of their sentence. States also have a duty to respect the fundamental roles of lawyers in guaranteeing the right to
Sevgili arkadaşlar, sunumlar esnasında sessiz olabilirsek çok daha verimli geçecek. İki dilli bir konferans, bir forum yapıyoruz. Bir takım aksaklıklar olabiliyor. Aynı zamanda salonda da çok dillilikten kaynaklı bir gürültü olabiliyor. Siz aslında biraz daha sessiz olmanız. Şimdi İstanbul Delegasyonu adına iki arkadaşımızı, iki temsilci çağıracağız. Çünkü İstanbul ekibi ikiye ayrılmıştı aynı zamanda. Sevgili Jessica Kolkovic İsveç'ten, Sol Parti'den bölge parlamenteri ve sevgili Cedric, soyadını telaffuz etmekte çok zorlanıyorum. Sevgili Cedric, avukat ve mülteci hukuku alanında çalışan ve insan hakları alanında çalışan bir avukat Brüksel'den geliyor. İkisini davet ediyorum.
Okay. Hello. I don't know if you hear me quite well. My name is Jessica. I'm from the Left Party in Sweden, and I'm here to represent the Left Party. And we have a long collaboration with the HDP, attending on their Congress, having projects with the Women Academy in Diyarbakir. And we are also attending as observers and comrades in the during elections and that are heading very soon. My part of the Istanbul Convention, no, the Istanbul delegation, I'm sorry. it's a lot of things in my mind. Consists of persons with different backgrounds, both from political life, from journalism, and from legal experiences. We are from different parts of Europe. We're from Spain, from Sweden, Italy, Belgium, and Greece. During this week, we paid a lot of interesting visits to law offices.
I'm sorry. Arkadaşlar, sevgili misafirler, lütfen biraz sessiz olabilir miyiz? Evet, çeviriyle alakalı sorunlar olabiliyor. Biz hepsinin farkındayız, müdahale ediyoruz. Lütfen Jessica'nın sunumu arasında... just a second,
Yeah.
we need to check.
Okay. Okay? Okay. During this week, we paid a lot of interesting visits, both to law offices, human rights organizations, and to the Bar Association. We also met with different parties that gave us the picture of the whole field. They gave us the picture of the difficult and even dangerous work they're doing. We are both impressed, we are worried, and we're proud about your struggle. And we feel a lot of respect for your, both your struggle and for your dedication, of course. The delegation fully agreed, of course, about the conditions the people in this area are facing and living under. It's an abuse of all and violent on all and every agreement that should be a part of an obvious standard in every nation. We'll be, of course, referring to the Declaration of the Human Rights and the Istanbul Convention and all the treaties that you are always familiar with. We are well aware of the total oppressions of the Kurds, about the women movement, about the workers, the labor movements, and we want also inform you about and tell you about the HBTQ persons, that we will not forget them. And we also want you to understand that we reflect about much about how the impact is on the whole society. I also have a great concerns about our comrades that are in prison, in total isolation and without any rights at all. And we also admit to the facts that Mr. Öcalan is a key in this total situation and also a very clear expression of a totalitarian regime. Our response and actions towards all of this that we've been talking about these days, we are using our contacts and we are making questions in parliaments, we are writing articles, we like to spread the information that we got. We want to help you organize, and so on. An example for this has been taking place actually yesterday in the Swedish Parliament, where my party members have taken actions and made a report to the Constitutional Committee about the Swedish relationships with Turkey. This is just an example what we can do from the political side, our political view. This was an attempt to summarize our discussions, and now I will leave the word to my comrades here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jessica. My name is Cedric. I'm a lawyer. I would also like to add that we have met with a former prisoner and a family member of someone who is currently incarcerated. And yes, across these meetings, of course, a recurring concern is the continuing isolation of the inmates in the Imrali high security prison. What is a particular concern of myself as a lawyer is the continuing unlawful prevention of Mr. Öcalan's lawyers to see him, to communicate with him. In this regard, the CPT has found in the report that was published in 2020 that it is an incommunicado imprisonment to apart from the situation in Imrali prison, the meetings we conducted over the past few days made it clear that the model, or the prison regime in Imrali is actually serving as a model for other prisons in Turkey as well. We have heard in our meetings about detrimental detention conditions across the country. Prisons across the country. There's also a limited access, or I should say a total lack of access to healthcare, and this is particularly a problem for women inmates who don't have access to, for example, sanitary pads. It's also an issue for LGBTQI+ members, and a specific matter that has brought to our attention is the isolation of trans persons inside the Turkish prison system. I want to add in this regard that as a delegation, of course, we did not have any fact-finding authority, so we could not observe this ourselves. So in this regard, I would really like to emphasize the need for an independent monitoring body to be allowed to visit the Turkish prisons in general, in order to date is yet to be confirmed, but with the elections approaching, again, it's important to emphasize the need for a space a space for freedom of expression, to allow people to convene, to assemble, and to express their opinion without harassment, without obstruction from the authorities. And I'll end with a particular concern of myself. Well, it's a bit difficult to be the last one to speak in a meeting such as this one, because there's always the danger to repeat what others have said. So maybe I can just say that I want to echo what Paul, my fellow lawyer from the UK, said. I've heard on several occasions this week about lawyers who are obstructed in their work. There is a case or an ongoing investigation into at least 20 lawyers, and I'm looking at my Turkish colleagues. Yeah, I would be happy to receive more information about this after we concluded this visit. But the news that at least 20 lawyers are facing charges for belonging to a terrorist group or are facing terrorism charges, allegedly for the sole reason of doing their job, for doing their work as a lawyer. I also understand that women lawyers in particular are exposed to hardships that their male colleagues do not face. And in this regard, the case of Ceyhan Tosun, if I pronounce that name correctly, was brought to my attention. She's a female human rights lawyer who faced a smear campaign following the bomb attack in Istiklal Street on the 13th of November. A smear campaign on social media that wrongfully accused her of the bomb attack, and probably these allegations were merely based on the fact that she's working as a human rights lawyer. In this regard, and that's something I'll end with, we also conducted a meeting with the Istanbul Bar Association at the start of this week, and the general impression members is that the Bar Association does not share the concerns about the work of our Turkish colleague lawyers and the obstructions they are facing, the obstacles they are facing in their day-to-day work. But what we seem to agree about is that there's simply a lack of political will to uphold the rule of law. And yeah, as a lawyer, that's of course the main concern. So again, I'd like to echo what has been said before about the rule of law, especially in times of elections. Sorry, maybe that's what I will end with, the very last bit. We've also been asked on several occasions what we will do when we return home, and one of the ideas that we received was to have like a regular meeting, whether it's online or in person, probably online given the fact that we're from so many corners from the world, but to reconvene at regular points just to follow up on what we've been doing in our own home countries, because we've been talking a lot about isolation inside the prisons, isolation inside the society, but there's also some form of isolation on the international level in the international community, where there seems to be a lack of, well, one could say political will, maybe attention for ongoing human rights concerns in Turkey, in the country. So I'd like to voice, or I'd like to repeat the recommendation that we took from one of our meetings, and invite all the delegation members here present today to remain in touch in the weeks and months that are ahead of us. So yeah, thank you very much.
Teşekkür ediyoruz heyet üyelerimize. Heyet üyelerimiz aktarımlarını yaptılar. Şimdi konuşmasını yapmak üzere Halkların Demokratik Partisi Parti Sözcüsü Sayın Ebru Günay sahneye davet ediyorum.
Ben de başlarken kurum temsilcilerine, eş devletin polisin bütün şiddetine rağmen günlerce direnen Barış Annelerini ve Adalet Türbesi'ndeki annelere hoş geldiniz diyorum hepiniz. Ve tabii ki Avrupa'nın çeşitli yerlerinden birçok ülkesinden gelen hukukçu arkadaşlarıma da meslektaşlarımıza da bir kez daha hoş geldiniz diyorum. Çok önemli bir buluşmayı gerçekleştiriyoruz. Çünkü Tecrid bu ülkede demokrasinin turnusal kağıdı. İmralı Adası'na yaklaşım bu ülkede demokrasiye yaklaşımın, Kürt sorununda çözümün turnusal kağıdı. Dolayısıyla ülkenin demokratikleşmesindeki kriter barışın, özgür çok kapsamlı değerlendirmelere, çok büyük örneklere denk gelmişlerdir. Ben burada uzun uzadıya bunu anlatmayacağım. Ama bir hakikat var biz hukukçular açısından. O da şudur ki cezaevlerindeki yaşananlar, cezaevlerindeki hak ihlalleri, cezaevlerindeki işkence ve kötü muamele o ülkenin demokrasisinin aynasıdır. O ülkedeki insan hakları savunucularına yaklaşımın aynasıdır ve Türkiye'deki durumun çok da iç açıcı olmadığının farkındayız. Elbette ki Türkiye'de İmralı uygulamalarının bütün Türkiye'ye yayıldığı, başta cezaevleri olmak üzere bütün toplumsal mücadele alanlarında uygulanmaya başladığı ve tecridin artık bir yönetme biçimine dönüştüğü zamanlardan geçiyoruz. Yani aslında tek adam rejiminin ülkedeki faşizmin kurumsallaşmasının temeli elbette ki iktidarın tecrid politikalarına yaklaşımıdır. İktidarın tecrid politikalarında ısrarıdır. İmralı Adası'ndaki teklik rejimi bugün Türkiye'nin her yerinde uygulanıyor. İmralı Adası'na yaklaşımdaki baskı, haber alamama hali, keyfiyetçilik, hukuksuzluk bugün ülkenin her yerindeki yönetme biçiminde ve daha önemlisi bütün sokağa çıkan, bu faşizme itiraz eden bütün toplumsal muhalefete yaklaşımda da bir tecrid politikasıyla, bir savaş politikasıyla yaklaşmak kendisini göstermektedir. Savaşın ve tecridin birbiriyle doğru orantılı olduğunu, birbirinden beslendiğini biz Kürtler bu topraklarda yaşayarak çok iyi biliyoruz. Kendi hayatlarımızla bunları deneyimledik. Savaşı, gözyaşını, katliamları ve bunun tecritten nasıl beslendiğini hepimiz bu mutlak tecritin başladığı günden bu yana da AKP faşizminin nasıl savaşta ısrar ettiğini, nasıl savaş politikalarıyla, kimyasallar kullanarak, katliamlar gerçekleştirerek Türkiye'nin bütün demokrasi güçlerini cezaevleriyle tehdit ederek ve cezaevlerinde tutarak bir savaş politikası içerisine girdiğini gördük. Bu aslında işte Türkiye'deki demokrasi sorununun tanımlamasıdır. Yani biz aslında bugün evet tecritle beraber bir hukuk meselesini, ihlal edilen hakları, cezaevlerindeki hak ihlallerini konuşuyoruz ama aynı zamanda da çok siyasal ve çok politik bir meseleyi konuşuyoruz. Bu nedenledir ki bizim yürüttüğümüz bütün tecrit karşıtı çalışmalarda başka bir tecrit çalışmalarının da tecrit edildiği, yani tecrit karşıtlığının tecrit edildiği bir realiteyle karşı karşıyayız. Ya da alanlarda sokağa çıktığımızda ablukalarla, tecritlerle karşılaştığımızda, şiddetle karşılaştığımızda işte bu tecrit politikalarının sonucudur. Ama bizler bundan asla geri durmadık, mücadelemizden asla geri durmadık. Çünkü şunu biliyoruz, Sayın Öcalan'ın İmralı heyetiyle yaptığı görüşmede söyledi. Sağlık, özgürlük ve güvenlik koşullarının Orta Doğu'daki tüm halklar için, Türkiye'deki bütün demokrasi güçleri için sağlık, özgürlük ve güvenlik koşulları demektir. Ve biz işte bu nedenle de savaşa karşı mücadelenin gereği olarak, özgürlüğümüze sahip çıkmanın gereği olarak ve kendi özgürlüğümüze sahip çıkmanın gereği olarak tecrit politikalarına karşıtlığında tecrite karşı özgürlüğü, savaşa karşı barışı ve bu mücadeleyi yürütme hattında kararlıyız ve bu konuda da ısrarcıyız. Yurt dışından gelen her bir arkadaşımızın elbette ki gittiği yerlerde mutlaka bunun savunuculuğunu yapacaktır. Ama en büyük iş elbette ki biz Türkiye'de kalanlara düşüyor. Bunun mücadelesini yürütenlere düşüyor. Ben çok uzun uzadıya söylemeyeceğim ama bir iki noktanın altını çizmek istiyorum. Türkiye'de hukuksuzluğun başladığı yer İmralı'dası. Antidemokratik uygulamaların başladığı yer İmralı'dasındadır. Dolayısıyla bütün hukuk dışılıklar, bütün keyfilikler önce İmralı'dasına uygulanır. Ondan sonra da bütün Türkiye'deki bizlerin hayatlarına nüfuz edecek şekilde uygulanmaya başlanır. İşte 2015 sonrası, darbe girişimi sonrası bütün cezaevlerinde avukat müvekkil görüşlerinin kayıt altına alınması, tekli hücrelerde kalmaktan tutalım da aile görüşlerine getirilen kısıtlamalar hepsi İmralı tecrit sisteminin bu ülkeye yayılma biçimi. Ama aynı zamanda sokağa çıkma yasakları, uzun yıllar devam eden sokağa çıkma yasakları, yine sokağa taşan şiddet ve işkencede İmralı tecrit sisteminin yansımasıydı. Bizler buna karşı mücadele hattımızı güçlendirme ve bu konudaki tecrit karşıtlığındaki ısrarımızı elbette büyüteceğiz. Çünkü dediğim gibi demokrasinin turnusol kağıdı, özgürlüğe yaklaşımın turnusol kağıdı İmralı tecrit sistemidir ve bu tecrit sisteminin dağılmasıdır. Bugün burada çok önemli bir adım attık. Birlikte tecritin tecrit edilmesine karşı bir forumu gerçekleştirdik ve bunun ilk startını verdik. Ama bu yetmez. Daha kararlı, daha büyük mücadelelere ve farklı zeminlerde bir araya gelip sesimizi yükseltmenin zamandır. Ben tekrardan bu forumda emeği geçen her bir arkadaşımıza, başta Özgürlük İçin Hukukçular Derneği'ndeki avukat arkadaşlarımıza teşekkür ediyorum. Yine çeviriler boyunca heyetlere eşlik eden arkadaşlara, emeklerinden dolayı özellikle tercüme konusunda yardım eden arkadaşlara tekrardan teşekkür ediyorum. En büyük işi ve görevi onlar gerçekleştirdiler. Ve bugün burada olan herkese de tekrardan teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Şunun altını çizerek bitiriyorum. Tecrit kaybedecek, halkların özgürlüğü ve barış mutlaka kazanacak. Bu topraklara özgürlük ya gelecek ya gelecek.
Sayın Ebru Günay'a konuşması için teşekkür ediyorum. Arkadaşlar bu bölümü sonlandıracağız şimdi. Basını dışarıya alacağız. İkinci bölümümüz biraz daha serbest tartışma şeklinde olacak. Saat 10.